The last time Nick Chubb played a full season, he was a top 6 running back overall, top 8 per game in all formats. He had a huge year. That was 2022, 302 carries, 27 catches, rushed for over 1,500 yards. And, of course, he averaged 5 yards per carry because he always averages 5 yards per carry or better, except the last time we saw him on the field. But now looks like he's got a new team. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Anthony Richardson's shoulder. We'll talk about one of the most fun things you can do in fantasy, and that would be a rookie dynasty draft. It is super fun, rookie-only dynasty draft. A lot of trades, a lot of sweating it out, hoping to get your guy. And we've got the Bake Burger Dynasty League going on right now, the draft wrapping up, the 4-round rookie draft. So we'll update you on some of the things there. We had a couple of trades we want to tell you about, but that's later in the show. Welcome, everybody. It is Monday, June 9th. We've got 4 episodes for you this week and news to catch up on today, plus fill in the blank. All right, Jamie, Heath, 0 to 10 on the week. No, you know what? I don't care about the weekendometer. 0 to 10 on how do you think Thursday's show went without me?
A+.
I'd say 12 because it was a little long, but it was perfect. But besides that,
it was a little long, wasn't it? Yeah. It actually went under what I projected. So
you know what I've never heard though, and I don't read all the emails that you do. I know that every email that gets sent to fantasyfootball@cbsi.com, you read and respond to, and so you guys should send Adam some more emails. But I've never seen somebody who listens to us say, man, that episode was just too long.
I agree.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't sweat it too much.
Right.
But I don't think we want to get too long either. You know, I think like we should be able to fit our content into a certain window. I think we have to make sure we do a better job of being succinct. Right. So let me talk about that for a few minutes here, Heath. No. And by the way, Heath is lying. I don't read every email. This time of year, I read most of them, but I don't respond.
Can I read you 2 YouTube comments from the show Thursday?
Oh, sure.
All right. This is the way that I think people feel about us in a nutshell. First one, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but this has been the best show from start to finish I've heard in my 3 years of listening to you all. And the next one, right after that, I didn't know I would miss Adam this much.
Well, there we go. All right, let's get to the show here. The Texans are set to sign Nick Chubb to a 1-year deal if he passes his physical. So 2 years ago, Chubb tore the ACL, MCL, and meniscus and medial capsule in his knee. That was week 2 of 2023. Last year, he came back. He struggled in 8 games. He had 102 carries, averaged 3.3 yards per carry, had a long of 19 yards. This was arguably the best running back in football during his career. And then he was a shell of himself last year, and then he broke his foot. So Joe Mixon, a consistent round 3 pick in our drafts. Heath, if they do go ahead and sign Nick Chubb, if it becomes official, what does this mean for the Texans backfield?
I don't really think I'm going to move Joe Mixon. Round 3, I think, was already factoring in a little bit of risk. We talked about these guys last week on FFT Express. These guys who have been top 10 running backs relatively consistently recently, but they've reached the age where we start to have concerns and we don't want to draft them as top 10 running backs. And I'd put Alvin Kamara in that list. I'd put James Conner just a little bit below, but kind of in that same group. Maybe even Aaron Jones. Mixon's still at the top of that group for me. He's RB16 for me, pick 30 right in the middle of round 3. That's where I'm good with him. The bigger impact to me was I was still in like round 10 or later drafting Nick Chubb with the hope that he landed in a better spot like Dallas or Chicago or maybe even Denver. It sounds like they're looking for somebody, but I don't like Chubb's just a dart throw as a hope. And there's a decent chance if he takes over for Mixon at some point, he's not good.
Jamie, what are your thoughts on it? Let me just say that I want to say Bijan Robinson had about 2/3 of the running back carries last year when Joe Mixon was healthy. So I removed week 8 and week 18. Week 2 and week 18. Week 2, he left about halfway through. Week 18, he barely played. When he was healthy, he had about 87% of the Texans running back carries. I haven't looked at every running back or anything, but I would guess that is right up there near the top, if not number 1. I mean, maybe like Kyron, but I mean, he just has like almost every carry. So what do you think about the signing here of Nick Chubb probably ending up on Houston?
Well, even with the games that he left, he was 7th in total touches among all players last year.
Wow.
So, all non-quarterbacks. So he averaged 20.1 touches per game. So that number is going to go down to whatever extent is probably going to be how good Nick Chubb is. I think the thing that this does is it improves the value for Joe Mixon because he still should be the best running back for the Texans. It kills, I think, any potential of Nick Chubb, to Heath's point, of being somebody that may be relevant without an injury. But it just is another situation of like, and it may change how people draft a little bit because I think, as we've seen, right? At least one of my big takeaways for the early drafts that we've done, like I want to get 2 receivers early. If I can, my first 2 picks, potentially 2 in my first 3 picks. But now when you get to that group of running backs, there's going to be a few guys that are going to be superstars and finish in the top 10. And that group is still Mixon and Kamara. And I think Ken Walker's in this group based on ADP. Connor, there will be the rookies drafted, not named Genty, in this range also. But it's muddy now, especially if Dobbins does go to Denver and takes away the feature potential of what RJ Harvey could be. Still maybe the best guy there, but don't know how that'll play out. So I hope it just sort of pushes that group down a little bit and you get them at discounted price. I think we'll see that with Kamara, with the offense in New Orleans being, potentially terrible. But Breece Hall in a 3-headed situation, could be ugly. Chuba Hubbard now has more competition for targets. We'll see if Aaron Jones is still in this range also, but now has a little tougher competition potentially. So it's we talk a lot about this wide receiver group 20 to 40. This running back group, I think like 15 to 30 maybe, could be a little messy as well.
I have to continue my personal DeAndre Swift streak. So I'm inspired by Adam's Tyreek Hill streak.
Yeah.
I think the guy I have right behind Mixon in the projections right now is Swift, and I'm not ranking him as high as I have him projected, but they're both like mid RB2s. And I'm going to be really interested if Chubb does sign with Houston and Dobbins signs with Denver. Do we finally see DeAndre Swift at least crack the top 24 running backs in consensus rankings in ADP? Because every source I looked at this morning, he's somewhere between RB 25, 26, 29, 32 on one site. And I think that there's been baked in this summer, the fear of Nick Chubb, who visited the Bears, or J.K. Dobbins coming in and playing that Jamal Williams or David Montgomery role and Swift's touches being limited. Now, it's worth saying that even when that happened, he was a good RB2 when he was in Detroit on a per game basis. But I would expect that he's going to be a riser if Dobbins also signs anywhere but Chicago.
It's hard not to, and like even, for me personally, like, I get a little scared about these older running backs, as I'm sure everybody that's listened to us for a few years is aware of. Like, why would you not take James Conner over Joe Mixon right now?
Well, so Mixon, I think, Joe Mixon has been a top 12 running back per game in 6 of the last 7 seasons. He had a late season slump last year where he had some very tough matchups. And he had 4 games down the stretch, 4 of his last 5 games, not including week 18, where Mixon had 14 or fewer carries. I went back, I looked at the box scores. The Texans did not have the ball for more than 26 and a half minutes in any of those games. So he finished so strong, so poorly. Before that, his first 7 healthy games, Joe Mixon averaged more than 24 fantasy points per game.
He was awesome.
He was not just awesome. He was probably the number 1 running back in fantasy, until that late season stretch on a per game basis. Now I didn't include week 2 in there when he left with an injury, but he was so good and he looked revived. And then he slumps at the end of the year. And wouldn't you know, at the end of the year, he averages 4.1 yards per carry, which is basically what he does every year. He's been above that one time in 8 seasons in his career. But he was so good. And it was every single running back carry basically going to him, 86, 87%, whatever I said it was. So yeah, I just think that he has upside that Connor doesn't. But they are similar. I mean, Connor is so much more efficient. But
less competition.
They get a ton. Yeah, no, I get it, because you know what? I bet I could come up with a Connor stat that's pretty similar to Mixon, who's finished top 12 per game in 6 of the last 7 years. I think the difference is James Conner so frequently misses games or leaves games early. He leaves games early, and it hurts him at the end of the year in terms of per game. But he probably is pretty similar to what Joe Mixon has done. It's an interesting point.
Again, draft strategy. Like, to me, hero RB makes so much sense. Like, you get one of these guys that top 10, and then you hope to just sort of get two guys that can sort of be your RB2.
I know, but listen, but like Alvin Kamara averaged 19 PPR points per game last year.
And was a league winner where you got him.
Yeah, but Joe Mixon averaged exactly 19 points per game if you removed weeks 2 and 18. Week 2, he left with an injury. Week 18, they barely played their starters. Who at wide receiver in late round 3, early round 4 is good? Do you think has the potential to give you 19 points per game? That would be my argument against going hero RB, unless you're considering Mixon or Kamara your hero in round 3 or 4. I don't think we are. That's not exactly the strategy, but I guess it could be. But what I'm saying is I feel like those guys are better than the wide receivers going in that range.
I guess it depends on, what you're thinking the upside of those receivers can be. So if you're talking about, the guys in that range are going to be probably like Rashee Rice, McLaurin,
yeah, Garrett Wilson,
Tyreek Hill.
I don't know where
Devontae Adams. Like,
yeah,
I guess the argument is the same, right?
Well, I think you could definitely make the case that Rashee Rice has that upside. I mean, he showed it last year very briefly.
But if you're talking about, like, in the case of Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams, you two guys are probably on different sides of the argument. Adam would say, right, Hill can get there again.
I don't think Hill's going to last that long personally, but yes, I would absolutely say Tyreek Hill can get there again.
And Heath, I'm sure you would say Adams get there again. I feel the same about both of them, that they could, so it's just a matter, I guess, of how you like your roster build to be and what your, risk reward is on these older running backs that, yes, they were great last year, but now there's another year. And you're talking about, in the case of both the guys that you mentioned, Mixon missed time due to injury. It was hamstring or ankle, right?
I don't remember.
And Kamara missed 3 games at the end of the season with a groin injury, and now you're talking about, in the case of Kamara, his offense and his environment could be terrible, absolutely terrible. And for Mixon, if Nick Chubb is anything close to being healthy, forget about where he is as a player at this point, healthy, he's going to take touches away.
Yeah. Yeah. So actually, I want to play a little devil's advocate here, because it doesn't seem like you guys are moving Mixon down much, if at all. So I want to play devil's advocate after this commercial break. We'll be right back. It's a little bit of an unusual show for us. We don't have like a primary topic, but it is a newsy show to catch you up on everything, including the Colts quarterback situation and why I spent time this morning researching Daniel Jones and Sterling Shepard. Okay, we'll be right back after this to finish up our Nick Chubb discussion on FFT.
The clock never stops. Relive the greatest moments with uninterrupted highlights and more.
It's Gareth Bale! Ronaldo! Wonderful goal!
On the UEFA Champions League channel. Streaming free.
All right, here's my devil's advocate about not being too... Is it fair to say, I know, like, we're not really moving... I know Heath said that, not really moving Mixon down. Jamie, you're the same?
I'm going to move him down. Yeah, he was borderline RB1 for me. And I just can't. I still think their potential is there. I just can't draft him in that spot now.
Okay. Here's my this could be really bad scenario. They're basically the same age. Nick Chubb is about half a year older. Last year, he was coming back from an extremely serious injury, not just a torn ACL, but like I said, ACL, MCL, meniscus, and medial capsule. And he struggled, but he's now another year. He's basically going to be 2 years removed from that horrible injury. Did he have surgery on the foot? I couldn't find that out. If he broke his foot, I don't know if he needed surgery this off season. But yeah, I mean, if he recovers from the foot injury, he's not going to be 2 years removed from that horrible knee injury. He has been so much better than Joe Mixon. Like I said, Joe Mixon, 1 year of his career averaging more than 4.1 yards per carry. That's my concern here, is that if Nick Chubb is healthy, he's the same age as Joe Mixon. We know healthy Nick Chubb is much better than healthy Joe Mixon. So that's my devil's advocate.
I mean, look, there's a reason why he's lasted this long in the offseason. There's a reason why he struggled last year. He just may never be the same guy again. And so when you have these devastating injuries, when you have them at a certain age, it's hard to come back and be the same player. And so look, he should be. I don't know what the Browns do in terms of like their own Hall of Fame or Ring of Honor or whatever they do their honor players. He belongs in it. He was so good for that team for so long, but they clearly wanted to go in a different direction. And so how many times do you see guys after injuries like that change teams at this point in their careers and still be good? Like, it just doesn't happen very often.
Yeah,
so
it seems like a long shot.
I think it's not, this really isn't about Nick Chubb being good. It's about just how much work he's going to take. Clearly, if he's good, it's going to impact Joe Mixon in a completely negative way. But I think it's just more of, this is a signing that the Texans feel will help their team. This is a signing that's an indication on Dameon Pierce and Dario Gumbawale, who's more of a special teams guy. But maybe it's an indication that they're just not ready to give Woody Marks, a bigger workload, and knowing what their offense looked like when Mixon missed time last year. Gumbawale had some good games, but clearly not the same. It's just it's probably a smart signing by the Texans. But again, when we talk about it for fantasy, this isn't going to crush Joe, at least my opinion, not going to crush Joe Mixon. It's just, again, when you start to nitpick these guys of him versus Walker, him versus Kamara, him versus Connor, him versus the rookies, depending on how it shakes out with how much you like Henderson or Hampton or Harvey, your Triple H guys.
Yeah.
Where does Mixon now fall? And so I think if you're still in the Mixon camp, you're going to get him at a discounted price, which is great. If I'm not drafting a 29-year-old running back, you're probably not going to draft him now at all, unless he just falls to a good spot. So
I am currently viewing it as more likely that Nick Chubb gets cut than returns to his 2022 and prior form.
Okay.
Gets cut, like doesn't make the team?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean,
yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, just because I think it's so outrageous to hope for a 29-year-old running back coming off of that injury that was that bad last year to be what he was before that. And if he's still what he was last year, they probably don't have a use for him.
Somebody said in the chat, the Texans O-line is gross. And that's another thing. Yeah, I mean, they lost 2 offensive linemen from last year, including their best lineman, left tackle Laramie Tunsil. But actually, they rated very poorly. PFF had them 25th in run blocking. ESPN had the Texans 31st in run blocking last year. So they already dealt with a bad offensive line. You don't want it to get worse. I'm not saying that the loss of Tunsil isn't a big deal. I mean, it definitely is. Someone also says in the chat, Adam, would you eat a bacon, egg, and cheese with ketchup on a cinnamon raisin bagel? One of the New York City mayoral candidates says he does it that way. Did he say that? Because I thought it was Cuomo who said he eats a bacon, cheese, and egg or something like that. And then I saw Colbert make fun of him. It's like, it's okay, it's bacon, egg, and cheese. But I would not eat a bacon, egg, and cheese. Would I? I might eat a bacon, egg, and cheese with ketchup on a cinnamon raisin bagel. You know what would bother me is the ketchup. I'd be fine with a bacon, egg, and cheese on a cinnamon raisin bagel. Would I? Ugh. Saying it out loud, I'm not sure I would. But the ketchup, I think, is too much. I don't think I would do this. It's disgusting. Okay. Moving on to a non-Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon topic. The Steelers signed Aaron Rodgers. Dave and I did a bonus podcast on that. But Jamie and Heath, if you have any thoughts on this, this doesn't change anything. We've been operating under this assumption all offseason, right?
For the most part, yeah. I think really what this is about, and I'm sure you guys touched on this, is the receivers there and the playmakers. And the Jonnu Smith story is still out there. There was Jonnu's agent, Drew Rosenhaus, does a weekly spot on a South Florida TV station. And he said that the situation is still fluid, I believe was his quote. So the talks seem like they're still ongoing. So that would certainly help Rodgers' case if he has another playmaker like Jonnu Smith. But really can he make DK Metcalf into a superstar? I'm sure you argued for that, Adam.
No, well, not a superstar, no.
Well,
around 5.
Help his fantasy value with the potential of being the number 1 guy for Aaron Rodgers. And, this makes Pat Freiermuth more interesting if he's the tight end there. Their number 2 receiver right now is Robert Woods. I mean, that's how gross this receiving core is. Maybe Roman Wilson steps up. Maybe Calvin Austin steps up. Robert Woods right now is a guy that could be starting for them. And that just kind of shows you where this receiving core is. It's still Arthur Smith. I don't think this is going to be Rodgers walking in and doing what he typically does, which is run everything, because he typically has, the control of the offense coordinator, or at least the ear of the offense coordinator. So my guess is that, you'll get value from Rodgers in Superflex and 2 quarterback leagues, but in 1 quarterback leagues, like even in great matchups, even in these revenge games, because they're on seemingly on a revenge tour almost every week for him. I can't see a lot of people trusting him at this point.
I think we've seen Nick Chubb be Nick Chubb more recently than we've seen Aaron Rodgers be Aaron Rodgers.
It's true.
The two kind of questions, and I did give Metcalf a little touchdown boost. The two things Rodgers has done is heavily target his number one wide receiver and produce a touchdown rate that is better than his other efficiency stats. So you hope that Metcalf's always been a red zone target, no matter who he's played with. So you hope that Metcalf scores a lot of receiving touchdowns. What I don't know, and Jamie, you kind of hit on it, like Rodgers has generally had a lot of control and a lot of say about what the team is doing, especially in the red zone. Arthur Smith's averaged 481 pass attempts per game over the last 3 years and has almost as many rushing touchdowns as he does passing touchdowns in those 3 years. With quarterbacks that probably, well, I don't know. I'm not ready to say that Aaron Rodgers is definitively better than Russell Wilson right now. So,
but he's better than Des.
Does Rodgers influence Smith's run-heavy tendencies, especially in the red zone?
How many touchdowns do you have him projected for?
Too many, it seems like, but 24.
So I think if you're counting on 24, which I think is a fair number, I would say 20 to 24 is probably the range of outcomes. I'd be surprised if it's more than that. Maybe 18 is the low, but like, who's catching touchdowns for them? Like, that's the thing. It's like there'll be the combination of tight ends, assuming Jonnu Smith doesn't go there. There'll be the combination of tight ends. Freiermuth will probably have 8, would be my guess, if things go great for him. I mean, Metcalf could have 10 touchdowns. It wouldn't shock me.
Arthur Smith, 6 seasons as a coordinator or coach. He's been 29th or lower in pass rate in 5 of those 6. The only time he wasn't was the Matt Ryan year, where he was 8th in pass rate. But they had bad running backs that year. They had Mike Davis and Cordell Patterson. So he's a run-first coach. We know that. All right, let's talk about the Colts. Anthony Richardson hurt his shoulder. Michael Pittman bumped knees last week, and he's likely going to miss OTAs. So we had voluntary OTAs last week. We have mandatory mini camps this week for most teams. And Michael Pittman probably won't play, but Richardson won't play either this week. So he hurt his shoulder. Is this a big deal, guys, or is this just some offseason injury that is getting a lot of attention? Because, not a lot in the news cycle these days.
I changed my week 1 projection. I mean, the way my projections function, I only project one quarterback, and I'm projecting Daniel Jones now instead of Anthony Richardson. I think I was really hopeful that it wouldn't come to this, but you can't draft Richardson as anything more than a late round dart throw, just hoping for the upside. And the thing I was really disappointed is I thought if I made that change, the consolation prize would be, well, at least it'll be better for the other players on the Colts. But Daniel Jones has been so miserably bad as a passer, and he's not as efficient as a rusher as Richardson, that I really like. The only guy who maybe gets a little boost, I think, is Jonathan Taylor. Maybe Josh Downs does too, but I just don't know again how much they want. Do they want to throw? They don't want to throw as much as they did when Flacco was playing quarterback. How much are they going to let Daniel Jones throw? And is there any reason to believe that Daniel Jones will be better than Richardson as a passer? Because Richardson's averaged 6.9 yards per attempt for his career. Daniel Jones has never done that in a season. They're both really bad passers. I had hope that maybe Richardson as a young guy could be better. I don't have that hope for Daniel Jones.
Well, Richardson, okay. Richardson was on pace for roughly 3,000 yards last year, if you remove week 4. So week 4, I guess, was a game he left that super early with an injury. So about 3,000 yards. Daniel Jones is usually on pace for at least 3,500 yards. He throws more than Richardson. Obviously, he's been in a different offense, but that was one of the things that surprised me. Daniel Jones, his best year was 2022. That's when they won the playoff game. He averaged 29.5 pass attempts per game. In every other season, in his healthy games, you have to remove a lot of games. He leaves a lot of games early. But in the games that he didn't leave early with injury, in every other season, Daniel Jones has averaged at least 32.4 pass attempts per game. That actually very much surprised me. Whereas Richardson last year in his healthy games averaged 26 pass attempts per game. So you don't seem to think there'd be a big boost. Now, obviously, we have the Tyler Warren factor. So you got to, you look at like Josh Downs was amazing with Joe Flacco last year and miserable with Anthony Richardson. But now you've got Warren, who's going to get some targets too. Pittman, who's playing hurt all year. But I do think you'll get more pass attempts at the very least from Daniel Jones. Maybe a lot more.
I would tend to agree with that simply from a guy who's got experience. The thing I think that you look at is, first off, in terms of the injury, it could just be precautionary that they don't want to risk him coming into training camp hurt. So I wouldn't necessarily rush to judgment on anything with the Colts yet, because unless you're drafting now and you have to make a call, then maybe you give a slight boost to the pass catchers because of Daniel Jones. I agree with Heath. I don't think you should change anything dramatically. And I know, Adam, you were sort of banging this drum last year about what they would look like if Flacco played versus what they would look like if Richardson played, based on what Gardner Minshew did the year before when he was the guy there for the Colts and how those guys performed. And it made total sense. So this, to Heath's point, doesn't necessarily change, I think, a lot. But it could just be more opportunities because, again, they may trust, Richardson, trust Jones a little bit more than Richardson. So I'm still viewing it as Richardson should have the chance to, be the starter come week 1. Now, if Jones comes out and is lights out and then he's getting the first reps in camp and just, continues to play well, then clearly it's going to be tough for him. But I don't think there should be anything decided right now for Indianapolis because he's missing minicamp.
Josh Downs, let's see if I have it. I think he averaged like 15. He averaged 10.7 PPR fantasy points per game with Anthony Richardson. And he averaged a lot more than 15.4 PPR fantasy points per game with Flacco, which would have made Downs wide receiver 17 per game over a full season. And Flacco averaged 36 pass attempts per game in the weeks that he either started or mostly played. All right. Anything else on this, or shall we move on? We can move on.
I think it's just too soon to make a judgment. This isn't a season-ending injury for him.
Right. I know it's a lot of people I think are like, oh, another Anthony Richardson injury, shoulder, but might just be nothing.
If we were in the same boat that we were last year, where you're drafting him as a top 10 quarterback with, okay, look at the upside. My gosh, it's hard to overlook what he did as a rookie, those few games, blah, blah, blah. Then, yes, you're dropping him severely down your draft boards. But nobody's expecting him to come in as a number 1 fantasy quarterback. If you are, you haven't been paying attention. So I wouldn't overvalue Jones. If you're doing super flex and 2 quarterback drafts now, he's available in your dynasty leagues. You should definitely have him on your roster. But at this point, redraft leagues, just wait.
Daniel Jones, Heath, must have the lowest touchdown rate in world history.
3.1%. I think it's 1 point lower than Trevor Lawrence and 1 point lower than Anthony Richardson.
I mean, it's unbelievable because I did his 17-game paces. Well, I'll just say this. You don't have to look at the pace. His rookie year, Daniel Jones, 2019, is the only year of his career he's averaged more than a touchdown per game. It's unbelievable.
But it's the rushing upside. I mean, the year that he had before the ACL, when he was 3,500 and 700 rushing, those years are hard to find.
Absolutely, and it wasn't his only year on pace for more than 700 rushing yards. He did that twice. One year was very short. Okay.
Well, I was going to, it is one of my favorite collections of stats if I can get my stat machine to work fast. But there's a few quarterbacks who have thrown 2,000 passes in the NFL who have a lower touchdown rate than Daniel Jones all time.
All time. Wow. Who?
Joey Harrington.
Okay.
Chad Henne. David Carr.
Oh.
And Rick Meyer.
Oh. Wow. Okay. Blasts from the past.
A lot of collegiate stars there.
I'm going to get through the rest of the news and notes pretty quickly here. We'll move on to the fill in the blank. Mike Dugar of The Athletic says that JSN is going to line up out wide more. And he also says that Cooper Kupp is a tough cover when he's in the slot. Carolina tight end Jatavian Sanders lost 10 pounds. John Oehser of Jaguars.com thinks De'Ami Brown is going to play a huge role in the offense. Also, Liam Cohen praised Trevor Lawrence. This is one of those reports that I just have a hard time believing, but I feel like maybe, Jamie, I feel like you might buy into it a little bit with De'Ami Brown having a huge role in the Jaguars offense.
So Pete Prisco's going to Jacksonville, I believe, this week or next week. He's very tied into that team. From what he's told me, that they're moving these guys around a lot. All three receivers, Thomas, Hunter, and Brown. And, if you look at the offense and I think how it's going to operate with Liam Cohen there's opportunities. So I'm actually writing a story this week on veterans that we are going to ignore that will have fantasy relevancy at some point this season. And you go back to last year, and it was Darnold, it was Jonnu Smith, it was Kareem Hunt, it was who am I leaving out?
Zach Ertz.
Zach Ertz is a great call. These guys that just still can get the job done in some capacity. That I just did this because part of the story. Alan Lazard at the start of the season last year.
Oh yeah,
was fantastic until Devonta Adams joined the team. And he has no ADP right now, and he's the number 2 receiver for the Jets and their offense. Do you want to draft Alan Lazard? No one does. But by week 4, he may be a starter in 3 receiver leagues. De'Ami Brown is one of these guys. He's actually the reason that I came up with the story, was because I think he's just one of these guys that are going to have some semblance of relevancy.
But why? He's had like 5 good games in his entire career.
But it's not about him being a consistent starter. It's about 1 or 2 games. And look, what if Hunter ends up spending more time on defense? What if one of those guys get injured? Like you're not drafting these guys. That's not what the story is about. It's just at some point they may be waiver wire additions.
You know who should be in your column?
Let's hear.
Cleveland Browns wide receiver Deontay Johnson.
He is in the conversation. The Browns, I did Joe Flacco and Jerome Ford, though.
They could have more.
Good.
All right, moving on. Let's see. We got some players who
who led the Bills in touchdown receptions last year?
Oh my gosh, Amari Cooper. No. Who?
Mac Hollins.
James Cook. Mac Hollins. Oh, yes. Wow. Nice. Heath, way to go.
At the buzzer.
Always wins the games. All right.
You know who was top 6 in receptions among tight ends and top 7 in yards?
Who was top 6 in receptions and top 7 yards among tight ends?
Yep.
How is this not super? Hunter Henry.
Hunter Henry.
Yes. I love that call. He could have a nice year.
I mean, these are guys like
these are guys.
Correct.
These are guys.
They are, but I mean, again, you said Zach Ertz, great call. Jonnu Smith, top 5 tight end. Sam Darnold, top 10 quarterback. Like, there's going to be somebody. A few guys.
All right. Players who could skip mandatory OTAs this week or mini camps. Cincinnati defensive end Trey Hendrickson, a couple of Commanders, Terry McLaurin and Laramie Tunsil, Kirk Cousins, Micah Parsons, TJ Watt, Jonnu Smith, James Cook. Those are some of the names. The Packers finally released cornerback Jair Alexander. And Adam Sandler says he's going to cast Derrick Henry in a movie if he rushes for 2,000 yards.
Great.
Yeah, that was a cool video call. It was just a video.
Did you see how it all unfolded?
Not really, but I read about it.
So he was on the Dan Patrick show, Derrick Henry was. And Dan Patrick does a lot of Adam Sandler's movies. And somehow came up about that he loves Adam Sandler. Derrick Henry loves Adam Sandler. So he said if he runs for 2,000 yards, Dan Patrick will call Adam Sandler and make sure he's in his next movie. And then he called Sandler and said, hey, will you give Derrick Henry like a message or something? I'll give you his info. And so then he recorded the video for Henry, which Henry watched. It was cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, Christian McCaffrey will finish as RB blank if he remains healthy. We'll do some fill in the blank after this.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
Thank you to our audience members for providing our fill in the blanks today. You can follow me on Twitter at Adam Aizer, AIZER. I have now gained about 5 followers in the last 5 years, so I appreciate that. Heath is at Heath Cummings SR, and Jamie is at Jamie Eisenberg, JAMEY. Okay, here we go. Evan says Christian McCaffrey will finish as RB blank if he remains healthy. One.
Three.
One.
2.
Okay. We'll average it out at 2. Also, blank will share the backfield with Ashton Genty, and because of this, Ashton Genty will finish as RB blank.
Raheem Mostert and RB5.
No one RB4.
There we go. Thank you, Evan. We can do another one from Evan if you want. I wasn't planning on. Should we do another one?
Yeah.
Blank is your favorite sleeper tight end this year.
Favorite? Dalton Kincaid.
That's yeah. I don't. Can I say TJ Hawkinson?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Let's go to Jim Hamer. The current free agent most likely to make me adjust my rankings is blank. It's Dobbins,
J.K.
right?
Dobbins.
Yeah.
And he would be a much bigger deal than Nick Chubb, right?
How many free agents out there could still make a difference? So Dobbins, Chubb, if he signs, clearly he's on the verge of that. Keenan Allen.
Yep.
Keenan Allen could definitely eat up some targets, right?
Yeah, I mean, Schaefer suggested in our chat when talking about Rodgers that, Keenan Allen could join the Steelers, which would be a huge upgrade over what they have. But like where he goes could, certainly swing the receiving core for that team.
All right, next up is I am Groot. When making peanut butter and jelly, I use blank jelly. On a related note, creamy or chunky peanut butter?
I go strawberry jelly and creamy peanut butter.
Currently sugar-free jelly.
And what about your peanut butter?
I don't even know. I
You don't know if it's creamy or chunky? Have you ever had it?
I can't remember the last time I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. My son eats them a lot.
What is this sugar-free jelly? I'm interested to learn more.
Or I don't know if I think it's no added sugar jelly.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
the fruit still has sugar in it, but
Is it good?
the teenager's on a no added sugar kick, and so that's the jelly that's in the house.
Is it how?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. All right. So I've got definitely Jamie, you could make me a PB&J sandwich any day. I had strawberry jelly with creamy peanut butter. Chunky or crunchy peanut butter is awful.
No, I like it.
Not awful.
It's the
like
worst. It's just peanut butter is one of the best foods out there. I mean, super versatile. Sorry to all the people who have the allergy, but the chunky and the crunchy, revolting. Like, come on now. Okay. Thank you, Groot. Vinny Knapp says, my dark horse player outside of rounds 1 through 3 to finish as number 1 overall at his position is blank. Ooh.
Outside of rounds 1 through 3.
That is a good one. I'm gonna eliminate quarterbacks from this list.
Oh, I was gonna say Jaden Daniels. Come on.
Jaden Daniels, even Lamar Jackson. I'm seeing.
I got one that said cheat code though. Kittle.
Oh yeah. All right, we got to make it harder here with running backs and wide receivers only. Going to be drafted outside of round 3, but could finish as number 1 at the position. Mixon. Yeah. Godwin.
You're taking Mixon?
Actually, I would say, yeah.
How are you not saying Tyreek Hill right now?
I think he's a round 3 guy.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking at Fantasy Pros ADP. He's 27th. Joe Mixon's 52nd. Chris Godwin's on this list. It's hard to make a case for a lot of these.
Rashee Rice.
Rice is a good call. I was thinking him.
He's 29th. But
number one,
I think
I'm trying to think like any of the handcuff running backs.
Oh yeah. I'm going Mixon. Officially. All right, good question. Next up, what do we got? Next up is Faisal. Blank player is the best middle of the first round pick at pick 6 or 7. And blank is the best middle of the second round pick. So if you have the 6th or 7th pick, how do you want to start your team? 12-team league.
Who's the best pick in round 1 at 6 or 7?
Yeah, and then the in round 2 as well.
If CeeDee Lamb's there, that's my favorite. Round 2. Drake London.
Achan?
It's funny, Heath, that you say Achan because his
fifth.
ADP is 17th. So he's the answer to the second round one based on Fantasy Pros ADP, but he's always in the first round pick in our drafts. I'm gonna go AJ Brown in the second round.
It's a good call. He's there.
It is nice that you are looking at a list of ADP that you're using to determine these answers that we're not. So that makes it fun.
Yeah,
Brock Bowers, can he be the second?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. All right. Next fill in the blank. Next tweet is from Matt Johnson. Matt says he's willing to wait on quarterback. Blank is who I'm targeting, and I'll take him in round blank. And then I want to pair him with blank in round blank.
I tend to draft 3 guys if I can, which would be Baker Mayfield, Bo Nix, or Justin Fields. And I would take them no sooner than round 8, which is probably where Baker would be first. Nick's not far behind. Fields you can get later. Pair them with one of Fields if he falls, Caleb Williams if he falls, Drake May or Trevor Lawrence.
I'll go Fields in round 9 and Purdy in round 10.
And finally, we have Sean, who says Josh Downs will finish as a top blank wide receiver if Jones starts all season. He will finish with blank yards and blank touchdowns. And a bonus, Adam Azer will have blank hits compared to blank errors for the remainder of his softball season.
I'll take the bonus one. Adam will have 2 hits compared to 5 errors for the remainder of the season.
How many games are left?
We have a doubleheader tonight. I would say, let's see. We have a lot of games left. I'd say we probably have about 8 games left.
So I'll go 4 hits, 8 errors.
Yeah, that sounds right.
and Downs will be a top 50 wide receiver. And he will catch, let's see, 80 catches, 800 yards, 4 touchdowns.
All right.
I like it.
Well, so honestly, being in a rookie only dynasty draft is so fun. And Heath and Jamie, you guys are in other dynasty drafts. Do you do all of yours untimed? Because in our dynasty draft, the Bake Burger Dynasty League is untimed. For those of you who don't know what the Bake Burger Dynasty League is, there's a running joke that I bake my hamburgers, cheeseburgers. I don't do that anymore. But yeah, one time I had a very positive experience that came out great, and I was never quite able to replicate it. But anyway, the Bake Burger Dynasty League, we did it for St. Jude for the draftathon a couple years ago. We raised like $40,000 auctioning off a couple of spots. So it was pretty incredible. And we're going into year 3 now. So anyway, we're doing the untimed rookie-only draft. I think I'm on deck if we could get one of our British fellas to make a pick. But anyway, do you always make it? Oh, we have a trade. Oh, Schaefer just acquired this pick. He just this second acquired the current pick to take. Who are you taking? Let's go, Schaefer. You can take Dylan Gabriel. Come on in.
Yeah, I just took Dylan Gabriel.
Okay, great. Well, I was going to do that with the pick that I have on the clock for now, but you swooped in and took Dylan Gabriel. Well done. Yeah, we're almost done. We have 3 picks left in a 48 pick rookie only draft, 4 rounds. Anyway, Heath, are they all untimed?
Oh no, not at all. They are a variety of different times. Some of them are on time. Some of them are like 8-hour clocks. I think is what we do for YOLO. Some of them are much shorter. It's like a 4-hour clock, but none of them live. Which would be interesting.
Untimed is great. I mean, because it's only going to take a week, right? We did an untimed draft, and
untimed is much better in June than it is in July or August. Just because of like a week in July, might change the value of 3 or 4 players significantly. Not a whole lot's changing in June.
Well,
We
having
once had an untimed draft. I think I told the story before, where it was a 32-team office league. And clearly, if you get a huge advantage with a late round pick, sways the entire league. Dave was on the clock. I don't remember how long he was waiting to pick, but it wasn't that long. He wasn't like doing anything egregious. And Brett Favre signs with the Vikings.
This is not a rookie draft. This is a draft draft.
This was in August, whatever. And the guy who had drafted whatever the Vikings starter was at that point, I don't remember who it was. Josh McCown, maybe.
Tavares Jackson, Sage Rosenfels.
Yeah. Was so mad. I get Brett Favre. Of course you don't get Brett Favre. Like, this is he was so pissed off. And Dave got Brett Favre.
Well, we made some trades in this league, including Schaefer trading some late round picks to get the 45th pick and take Dylan Gabriel. But not a lot of love for the quarterbacks. What'd you say, Jamie?
He made another trade also earlier.
All right, Schaefer, what trades did you make?
I traded a couple picks to move up to get what's his name? Jalen Milroe.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, you did. That was cool.
Yeah, I need my team's really good. I just need a little bit of luck with quarterback. So that's what I was doing.
And you did that in the late second round, right? Jalen Milroe?
Yeah. Jamie was up, then it was Dan, and I figured one of them would take him. So I traded my third that I had in this year's and then 2 seconds to move up. I don't really consider picks I don't hold them very high until my team blows up, and then I trade all my assets for first.
Wow, a third and 2 seconds to take Jalen Milroe. That's pretty risky, I'd say. And then Jamie, you made a trade. I thought it was a great trade. What'd you make?
I did. I traded Drake London for Rashee Rice and Tua Tagovailoa. It's a super flex league, so that's why Thomas, is trying to acquire quarterbacks. My 3 quarterbacks on this roster were Justin Herbert, Anthony Richardson, and Joe Flacco. So I don't have that much of a drop off between London and Rice, and I thought getting Tua was very important. My team should be competitive, but don't like to give up the best player in the draft in the trade. But thought I got better value in return.
Heath, have you made any trades recently?
I made a trade in round 1 of this draft
right.
that Jamie liked, Dave hated, and Twitter mostly hated too. But that's okay. I had 105, 19, and 110 in this draft. Took Trevion Henderson at 105, took Matthew Golden at 109, and traded 110 for what turned into DeAndre Swift, Jack Besh, Shedeur Sanders, and a 2026 second.
Oh, I think it's a pretty good haul. I mean, you gave up the guy. It turned into Colston Loveland. That's who went 110, and you got you said Swift, Shedeur Sanders. Who was it again?
Jack Besh, Shedeur Sanders, and a 2026 second.
Okay. And I traded Ken Walker for Devontae Smith, which was just kind of an interesting trade.
It was the right move. Right move for your team.
Yeah, my team sucks. But here's the first round of the.
Did you shop Walker around, or was that just the first trade offer that was proposed to you?
It was just the first trade offer that was proposed to me, but I was happy with it. Ashton Genty went first. This is a PPR league. It's not tight end premium, and it is super flex. So Genty, Travis Hunter, Cam Ward, Omarion Hampton, Travion Henderson, Teteroa McMillan, RJ Harvey, Quinshon Judkins, Matthew Golden, Colston Loveland, Emeka Ibuka, and Jackson Dart. And I really thought, Loveland went 5 picks ahead of Tyler Warren. Jackson Dart was an interesting pick. It was, what stood out to you guys in our draft?
So I really struggled with, and I know this impacted Heath's trade. I really struggled with Judkins versus Dart because, again, my quarterback situation is pretty bad, or felt pretty bad at least. And so I was like, okay, at least let me try and find somebody that could start at some point this season and help me for the future. But I thought, okay, Judkins to me has just too much more upside, given the positions that they play relative to how this NFL draft went. And so I also needed a running back. So I took Judkins. And I know that changed Heath's plans because I think if I had not made that trade, you were staying at 10, right?
Well, I made the trade just before you made the pick. But I 100% would have taken Judkins. I thought there was a pretty big tier break after him. And I actually tried to move back from 9 to get back into that 13, 14, 15 range because I thought all three of those guys, and Adam mentioned Warren, but also Luther Burden and Caleb Johnson, all three of those guys are right there with the guys who went at the end of round 1. So it just kind of reinforced for me where I have the tier breaks in terms of how I value these guys. And it's like a top 7 to 8, depending on where Harvey goes, because I'm lower on him. Is a pretty clear tier for me. And then there's about 7 or 8 more in that late round 1, early round 2. And a lot of times you can move back from late round 1 into early round 2 and get something pretty decent in return. I was unable to do that, but I like all 3 of those picks there at the start of round 2.
I think I have a pretty good team now. I'm excited about this team.
I don't I think it's you should write an article since you like writing so much about like how to proceed in a dynasty league when you clearly have one of the 2 worst teams in the league and you don't have your first round pick next year.
I don't think that's so bad. All right. So here's what we got. We got Jaden Daniels and Cam Ward at quarterback and Superflex.
Let me before you read the whole team. Did you give any consideration to trading Walker for a pick next year?
Yeah. I mean, maybe. Did I give? Yeah, sure. But I'm happy with Devontae.
I considered offering you not my first, but I have 2 firsts next year. I considered offering you one of those for Walker. But I didn't.
Okay, so I've got Cam Ward and Jaden Daniels. I've got RJ Harvey and Tank Bigsby. I've got
we're still on the starters, folks.
Yeah. Malik Neighbors and Rome Odunze.
And Devontae Smith.
Okay, yeah. Malik Neighbors and Devontae Smith. I've got Elijah Arroyo at tight end. And then my flexes are Odunze, Wan'Dale Robinson, Amari Cooper, and Quentin Johnston. So I think things are look it up.
The problem is that you don't have a first round pick next year.
Well, but I had 2 this year. So I took Cam Ward and RJ Harvey. I was very happy. I came away with Cam Ward, RJ Harvey, and Elijah Arroyo, and Trevor Etienne, and Gunnar Helm. I was pretty happy. I thought I had a good draft.
You definitely had a good draft.
Azer, somehow you got to get your first round pick for 2026 next year because you're going to probably come in like last place. So you need to reacquire that pick so you can build this team back.
Yeah, the thing is, like, I don't have a first round pick, but obviously I have a second round pick. I should still tank, right? I mean,
I don't think it's really going to change much. Like, it's probably the difference between 0 and 1 win.
No, there are a lot of bad teams and like a lot of teams that just straight up tank in this league. I think I can make the playoffs.
No, you cannot.
All I need is a lot.
But what you should do is almost take Thomas's philosophy and just start trading all your draft picks to acquire talent.
I could do that. I don't really have a lot of.
You should just see if you can get 2027 firsts. Like, can I add some firsts 2 years from now, and maybe then.
You see, I'd go the other way. I would just be trading picks for.
He doesn't have that many picks. He has 1 second next year.
No, like 2027 picks, 2028 picks. Like, just start. Just become the Saints. Just kick it down the road. Take on salary as opposed to draft. The Rams. Be the Rams.
It's tough when like I don't have any surplus of anything, so I can't make a trade for picks because then I'm just going to be horrible.
No, you're trading picks.
I know you're saying I should trade picks for players instead of players for picks. All right, well we'll see how it goes. We'll see where I'm at after 4 weeks, and then
So like when Heath is out of it, because Heath is like Heath's the team like he could make the playoffs, or he could be total rebuild mode, right?
Yep. I that's why I didn't offer that first for Walker yet, because I'm just gonna wait until we get to week 6 and see where we're at with this team.
So
I had Bishop Newton also. I forgot about that. So we're good.
What?
I have Bashal Tootin. I just wanted to mention that.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That was a good recovery for you after you lost the 2 receivers that you wanted.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't lose the 2 receivers that I wanted. They were obviously, it was Kyle Williams and Trey Harris. They were obviously going to get picked before my pick. They were very.
I was torn.
No, between the 2 of them, it was tough. But to have both of them selected where they were selected, they're so much more appealing than any of the receivers who went after them. So,
I didn't think that Dan was going to take Williams.
He took
Kyle
Williams ahead of Trey Harris.
No, I took Harris, then he took Williams, then you took Tootin. I thought Dan would take Tootin.
So one of the topics I wanted to bring up is I thought maybe obviously you're going to get the 2 tight ends who were first round picks are going to go probably first round, if not early second, which is what happened in our draft. I think that maybe the next 5 tight ends, is it 4 or 5? It's 4, right? Yeah, 3 in the second round, and then
it's Ferguson, Taylor, Fannin, Arroyo. I think that's it.
4. I feel like I think they maybe should go ahead of Kyle Williams and Trey Harris, excuse me. Like they lasted a pretty long time. I don't think any of those next 4 went until the 3rd round. Kind of surprised me. Like I think that the second round tight end should probably be going ahead of a 4th round running back or something like that.
I mean, it probably comes down to team need. Like, I don't necessarily disagree with you, but like for my team, I didn't need one of those tight ends as much as I needed a receiver.
I think the hard thing is to, like, if you're talking about at the end of round 2 or middle of round 2, especially, like, even if you need a tight end, I don't feel like any of those guys are going to help my team this year. I took Harold Fannin in round 3, and I was really happy in round 3 to do that. But round 3, I'm not thinking about somebody who might be able to help me this year.
And I did take Bashal Tootin, a round 4 running back, over any of those tight ends, but that was because I was picking in 3 or 4 more picks, and I knew at least one of them would be available. And it turned out all of them were available because it went Tootin, Jaden Blue, Jalen Knoll, Jalen Royals, and then 3 straight tight ends: Arroyo, Fannin, Ferguson, Shadur Sanders, Mason Taylor. Like I don't, just in a vacuum, I can't imagine drafting Jalen Royals or Jalen Knoll over those 4 tight ends. But
it's also super flex. So like Dart gets pushed up, Shuck gets pushed up.
Yeah.
Milrow gets pushed up.
But only 3 of those guys were drafted. Oh no, 4. Yeah, 4. So it was Cam Ward, early round 1, Jackson Dart, late round 1, Milrow and Shuck were round 2 picks.
Right. Milrow and Shuck don't go in round 2 in 1 quarterback drafts.
No, maybe if Schaefer's drafting, who knows? All right,
Azer, you cannot even talk. I've lost 4 games in 2 years. Come on, man. I think I know.
Thomas went win now in year 1, and it's still working out for him.
All right. Look, I drafted Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson. I thought I was going win now in year 1. Does it always work out that way? Does it? In fact, Heath, aren't we going to do a show like revisiting the draft on your Dynasty show?
Yeah, and we'll miserably see how I did go win now in year 1, and everybody got hurt. Everybody got hurt.
Yours is one of the worst luck situations I've ever seen.
Yeah. I'm not criticizing. Azer, stop criticizing him. I'm not criticizing anyone. Come on now. We're having fun. All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow on Fantasy Football Today. Dan Schneier will be on the program. Dave's on vacation this week, so bother him with emails. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. Later, everybody.